What's up, guys? Jason F. New 80s Revolution down here in the cave with another Whatever Happened To video. Yeah, that's right. See, a couple of people on the channel gave me this idea. They added it in little comments or sent me an email about this topic, and I thought, maybe I could do something with that. But I had to think about it for a little bit, and then through my job, my work, it's summertime now, and so a few of the kids that I see are telling me that they are having their end of the year trips to this local amusement park called Seabreeze, right? They're going with their whole class, and that got me thinking about field trips. That's right. So today right here, we're going to talk about whatever happened to school field trips. Right here on the big show. Now, I have reopened the Instagram page. The New 80s Revolution has an Instagram page. Go check it out. I will post, room pictures and collection pictures and throwback pictures and things like that. But I'll also post screenshots of the video that I'm, promoting at the current moment in time. And that's probably going to bring a few new folks to the channel because you put all the hashtags in, and I'm sure there's somebody in the world that's hashtagging school field trips, and what do you know, the video will pop up and they just may watch. So if you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. But I had somebody the other day who was new to the channel. When I did a show, Whatever Happened to Playing Outside, right? And a new friend of the channel, probably not that close of a friend of the channel, wrote, "What are you talking about? Kids still play outside." Yes, simpleton, they do. They certainly do. You're missing the tongue-in-cheek, style or attitude or presentation of this particular show, Whatever Happened To. Yes, most of these things still exist, but they don't exist like they used to. You won't be able to win that argument. They don't exist like they used to. So, whatever happened to school field trips? Now, I assume that school field trips still exist. Obviously, I've talked to a bunch of kids lately who are excited about their 8th grade trip or whatever like that. So they exist. My kids are homeschooled, so they have field trips, daily or weekly to the grocery store, to the hardware store, whatever. That's their field trips. So I don't know. I haven't had to sign any parental permission slips ever in my life. So I'm sure they exist, but they don't exist like they used to. And they certainly don't exist like they used to in the 80s, right? So school field trips. Now, I went to a Catholic school up until 6th grade. 6th or 7th. Not sure. I think 6th. And so 6 solid years, kindergarten through 6. And any memory of any field trip ended after I left that Catholic school and went to the toxic wasteland of public school. It ended for me. There were no more field trips. There was an 8th grade Washington trip. That was it. That was the last of my field trips. So I don't know if they continue on in higher grades. But the Catholic school, it seemed, if memory is not crystal clear on this, but it seems like we at least had one field trip per grade. Okay? That's what my memories are telling me, that we had at least one field trip per grade. And again, like with anything else, the anticipation of those field trips were through the roof, regardless of where you were going. Now, there's a couple of undercard field trips that I'll talk about, and then there's a main event field trip. Okay, and the main event field trip brought an anticipation that was so high, out of control, through the roof high. And I'll get to that in a minute. What I remembered most about field trips were there was really just a handful of places that we would go. So whether it was second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you could absolutely guarantee at least a few trips to this place called the planetarium, right? And I don't know. I still think that maybe a planetarium is just a made-up place. Because I don't have any adult experience with a planetarium. I think that it's a mythical place that exists only when you're a kid going on a field trip. It appears, and it appears, you go, you do some stuff, when you leave, it disappears, and then it's gone forever. Because I've never been to it. I don't know where there is a planetarium in my area here in Rochester, New York. I think it might be part of the Rochester Museum and Science Center, maybe. But I thought it was just a standalone place. I don't know. But the planetarium was part of the field trips. And all I remember about this place is that I don't know what else they had. I don't know what else you would do there. But I think I would remember lying in these chairs and looking up at space in the middle of the day. So I don't know if it's like a room that becomes spacey, and it's like a movie on the ceiling or something like that, but you're looking at stars and planets and all that jazz. So the planetarium was kind of like an undercard field trip. Okay, another undercard field trip that's exclusive to me. Unless you're from this area, you didn't go to this place. But I went to this place, and it still exists locally. It's called Cummings Nature Center. So I'm sure that if your school was into these nature center field trip deals, you probably have one too. In the Acme Nature Center. Well, we have the Cummings Nature Center. And I think the Cummings Nature Center is pretty much it's somebody's house. I think I think somebody lives there, and they have a lot of land, and they've taken care of the land, and they've put in paths and stuff and trinkets and doodads and whatnots, and they capitalized on it and turned it into like a field trip thing. So you pay to go there. And you look at birds, or you feed a squirrel, or we would plant like peas or beans in a styrofoam cup at Cummings Nature Center and bring them home to our moms, right? And then she'd put them on the windowsill, and if it was like my mom, she'd forget to water them, or she'd knock them in the sink when she was doing dishes, and it'd be over with, But for the good parents, you probably grew beans or peas to feed your whole family. But you would always come home with those from the Cummings Nature Center field trip. Now, regardless of where you were going, my memory tells me that it was hours and hours away, right? You're 8 years old, okay? A 20-minute drive is an eternity. So in my mind, the planetarium and this Cummings Nature Center are probably 3 or 4 day-long trips. Right? You're sleeping on the bus, you're driving through time zones. It takes forever to get there, right? In reality, I think it's probably maximum 35 minutes away. Maximum. But in my little brain at 8 years old, it's a day and a half. It's a ridiculously long trip. And you're on a school bus, right? You're on a school bus with every kid in your class, which is rare, because your school bus only had kids on it that lived in your neighborhood-ish, right? So now we've got 2 or 3 buses jam-packed with both classes. At St. Pius, each class had 2 classrooms, right? So there are 2 third grades, 2 fourth grades, whatever. So you jam everybody in, 60 kids or so. You get them on 2 buses with, Myrtle or Hagrid or I don't know, Ralph, the bus driver, looking at you in that big mirror, always watching what you're doing, checking you in the mirror. You'd get on the bus, you'd sit with your best pal, and you'd head south for 5-day trip to the planetarium. And I think I remember juice on the bus or snacks, because for God's sake you can't drive 35 minutes without a snack, right? You got to have your own personal hydration system, as George Carlin would say. You can't leave without a drink, right? But I think it was just to keep us quiet and subdued a bit, so they'd give us some cookies and some juice. And you'd have a great time on the bus, It was a blast. Now the main event field trip, I recall only happening once. Okay, and I have a story, but the amusement park field trip was heaven on earth, ladies and gentlemen. The anticipation, the build-up, and it's got to be the end of the year. It's probably June. It's probably a few weeks before summer vacation, and again, you're piling 60 kids, well maybe 50, because 10 kids didn't have money. The poor kids that didn't have, the $13 to go on the field trip had to opt out. And what's worse is that if you opted out, you still went to school for like half a day and did schoolwork with some substitute teacher, if I recall. So you're punished for your parents being poor. But you pile 50 kids on the bus or 2 buses, and you head a true hour or so to a place that we have here in Rochester or upstate New York called Darien Lake, which is now owned, I think, by Six Flags. But it used to just be called Darien Lake. And you would have your big class field trip at Darien Lake. And that, I don't know how kids weren't passing out with anticipation for Darien Lake. I mean, it was the greatest time ever. And of course you had your little crew, right? Because what's Darien Lake? They're rides, and most rides hold 2 people. So you would partner up with your best pal, right? And you would go on these rides together. And oh man, I mean, I remember, me and my best pal would talk on the phone the night before and pretty much map out everything we were going to do. And I don't remember a ton of supervision. You were pretty much on your own in the theme park with some meeting spots and some meeting times designated. But you went and did your thing. Your parents gave you $20 for food or whatever, and you just went and did your thing. And if you wanted to go on water slides, you would. And if you wanted to ride roller coasters, you would. There was no chaperone. You were just free for most of the day. And again, you had to meet up with somebody at a certain time. So I remember, and this is this sounds like such a dream scenario, but it is 100% fact. We were at Darien Lake for a school field trip. I was completely out of money, and there was about 5 minutes left in the day. In fact, the buses were loading. That is an absolute fact, no exaggeration. The buses were loading. And as we're dragging our butts to try to get out of there, taking our times, not really rushing, we walk past what used to be like the game alley, right? Where the carnival game section of Darien Lake. Six Flags, whatever. And I had no money, but there was a dart game that had, I want to say like 16 by 20 posters in glass frames. Okay, and maybe they were plastic glass, but they were glass to an 8-year-old. But they were framed. And there was one there that if I can find a picture, I'm going to put it up. If I can't, you've seen it. It's a WWF poster divided into 9 boxes. 9 boxes with wrestlers in each box. So Hogan, Roddy Piper, Jimmy Snuka, all in these boxes. So it's made like a tic-tac-toe board. 9 boxes with wrestlers in there. And that poster was at this dart thing. And in desperation, I looked down and there was $1. There was $1 sitting there, and I picked it up, and I played the game, and I won the poster. And it was either balloon pop with darts or get the darts in a star. I can't remember. But I won it with a free dollar that I found on the ground while the bus was loading, 0 hour, it's time to go, and I won this wrestling poster. And the bus was so packed we had to sit in the very back, and I'm walking with the poster, and everybody's like, thanks for holding us up. That's great. We're never going to get home to our moms now. But I had this poster. True story. 100% true story. Yeah, true story. So that was huge. Now, if you want the school bus ride to and fro, and also the experience at the event, the field trip, occasionally brought about a field trip romance or a school bus romance. Now, it wasn't me, right? I was a big dork, so I wasn't getting any of the chicks. But you'd watch it happen. You'd see kids, linking up who went to school with each other all day, every day, and didn't even say 2 words to each other. But as soon as you get them on the field trip something happens, right? There's this aphrodisiac of a field trip, and it would occasionally bring 2 kids together. And of course, it would end the next day, right? The big breakup. But if you want to see what I'm talking about, there is an episode. There's an episode of The Wonder Years. Okay, one of the best shows of all time. There's an episode of The Wonder Years that captures this to a T. Kevin and Winnie and a girl from another school are all kind of intermingling because it was a dual school field trip. I never had that, but Kevin is on the other bus. He's on the other school's bus. He's sitting with the girl. He was with Minnie. He was with Winnie when they get to the field trip. He's not with her anymore. At the end of the field trip, he meets a new girl. It's crazy, but it's such a a throwback episode, and really captures what I'm talking about, these field trip romances. So anyway, those are my experiences. Those are my memories. Do you have a story as good as the $1 wrestling poster at the end of the day? Tell me where you went. Did you have a nature center that you went to? Do you have any idea what a planetarium is? Put your comments below. And tell me all about your experiences, and maybe answer the question of whatever happened to school field trips.